The day they lowered my son into the ground, it felt as though the earth swallowed not just his body, but everything I had ever lived for. Michael was my only boy, the center of everything I worked for, the reason I woke up every morning. He had my stubborn jaw, my father's strong shoulders, and my mother's gentle eyes, the kind that could soften any darkness. When cancer tightened its grip on him, I stayed by his hospital bed night after night, listening to machines breathe for him, while I prayed for the strength to take his place. A father should never bury his child. The world isn't built for that kind of cruelty. And yet, as unbearable as the funeral had been, nothing could have prepared me for the cruelty that came the very next day. I was still moving through the house in a haze, touching the walls he once leaned against, the door frames he'd helped to sand, the memories that clung to every corner. That house wasn't just wood and paint, it was Michael's legacy, something we had built together from the ground up. But all of that seemed invisible to Claire as she stood stiff-backed in the living room, arms folded like a judge waiting to deliver a sentence. "Arthur," she said, icy and emotionless, "this house is mine now. You can't stay here anymore. It's time for you to leave." Her words struck harder than any illness I'd ever endured, harder even than the blow of losing my son. I stared at her, trying to understand. "Claire, this was Michael's wish, that we look after each other. I just lost my son. You just lost your husband. Don't do this." She scoffed, her lip curling. "You're old, you're useless. I don't need another mouth to feed. Pack your things." There was no plea that would reach her, no grief she recognized but her own. With trembling hands, I gathered the little she allowed me to take. No photographs, no heirlooms, nothing with Michael's face on it. I packed a battered suitcase and walked out of the house I had helped build with my own hands, the same house where I had carried beams, laid brick after brick, and painted walls side by side with my boy. Now I walked away from it with only the clothes on my back and a heart that felt hollow and bruised. For weeks I drifted. Some nights I found space in a shelter. Other nights I curled onto a cold park bench, listening to the wind whistle through the trees as though it were calling Michael's name. My pension barely kept me fed. I kept wondering what sin I had committed to be cast out so brutally by the woman my son had loved. And each time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael's smile, steady, warm, and encouraging. I whispered to him in the dark that I would keep going. Even abandoned, even forgotten, I would not surrender. Then came the letter, a plain white envelope, stamped with the name of a law firm. They summoned me for the reading of Michael's will. My hands shook as I turned the paper over. I knew Claire would be there. I also knew she believed everything was hers, that she had inherited not only his life, but everything he left behind. The lawyer's office smelled faintly of old books and coffee. Dark shelves lined the walls, and the large mahogany desk seemed too solid for the fragility of the moment. Claire sat across from me, adorned in jewelry I'd never seen on her before, pieces far too expensive for the lifestyle she and Michael had lived. She glanced at my worn coat and tired eyes with open contempt. "Don't get your hopes up," she whispered, leaning closer with a smug smile. Michael knew who really mattered. I kept silent. My son's memory deserved my composure. The lawyer cleared his throat and began. "To my beloved wife, Claire, I leave the sum of $50,000 to ensure she is cared for in my absence." Claire's smile bloomed instantly. She straightened her posture, already imagining the fortune she assumed would follow. But the lawyer continued. "To my father, Arthur, the man who raised me, taught me, guided me, and never once let me walk alone, I leave the house, the land, and the remainder of my estate, valued at $13 million. The room fell into absolute stillness. Claire's smile shattered. Her complexion drained to chalk as she stared at the lawyer, then at me, her disbelief twisting into rage. "No, no, that's impossible. He wouldn't leave everything to him." She jabbed a finger at me, voice sharp with panic. "I was his wife. I took care of him. That house is mine." The lawyer pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, unbothered. "These are Michael's exact words. He was very clear. His father built the house, and his father will keep it." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I felt the weight of grief crack open, replaced by something warm, something like the sun breaking through clouds. My son had remembered. Even in his weakest moments, even as his life slipped away, he had thought of me. In the darkest season of my life, he had reached back from beyond the grave to restore everything I had lost. Claire lurched across the table, fury shaking her entire frame. "You manipulated him! You made him write this!" I shook my head slowly, my voice steady despite the storm swirling around her. "No, Claire, this is Michael's will. He understood who would protect his memory and who wouldn't." She screamed, but the lawyer cut through her outrage with authority. "Mrs. Claire, I suggest you compose yourself. The will is binding. Should you choose to contest it, your $50,000 share will likely be consumed by legal fees." Claire froze. For the first time since Michael's death, I saw fear instead of arrogance in her eyes. Fear of losing the only piece of his estate she still held. I felt tears forming, not from sorrow but from vindication, from relief, from the weight of injustice finally lifting off my shoulders. Michael had spoken for me when I had no voice. He had defended me when I had no strength left. He had seen the truth of our lives, every sacrifice, every moment, every bond we shared, and he honored it. I walked out of that office not as a homeless, discarded old man, but as a father restored, a man carrying the final gift of a son who never forgot the hands that raised him. And as I stepped into the sunlight, I whispered into the quiet air, "Thank you, Michael, for everything."